Hey friends, just giving you an update here on this Tuesday, September 16th. We are in the process of upgrading our technical equipment, so we're taking the week off from a formal production for Veracity Hill. It would be episode maybe 257. I begin to lose track of the numbers. We're up there though, above 250 for sure. Just wanted to give you a ministry update on the efforts that we have been putting forth at Veracity Hill, tease to you some forthcoming projects and events, and also to engage then with some YouTube commenters, mostly haters from the non-believing community, but also some other comments from Christians on, say, Romans 9. Just a few weeks back, I had a debate with a friend, Sean Luke, on the subject of Romans 9. Does it teach corporate election? And that debate will be coming out this week, we hope, the full version, and then the team at Defenders Media will make some clips and shorts and generate some further videos from that material on Romans 9. So hopefully we'll get some more engagement and discussion going at the YouTube channel on that subject. I've also been transitioning into historical Jesus studies with the formal podcast, so we've got more episodes coming for you on that, starting next week. Again, taking today off from that. But I wanted to just mention a couple things. So first, golf retreat. The Veracity Hill Golf Retreat is this weekend, and we have 2 spots left. So if you are interested in coming, there is room just for 2 more people, and we've extended the deadline, of course, so 2 people can sign up. Go to veracityhill.com/golf. Send a message to me. We'd love to have you join us last minute, especially if you live in the Midwest, especially if you live in Illinois or Wisconsin. This is a great opportunity to go golfing this weekend with a group of men. Relax, hit golf balls, have food. It'll be a fun time, so hope you can join me this weekend. Today, with my team at Defenders, we were just thinking about what sort of the next small event could be using our space here. And we are thinking about putting on an event in December about the Christmas narrative. And I would give a presentation on that, the historicity of Luke's infancy narrative, Luke's Christmas story. So I think that's what we're going to do. We'll need to whip up some graphics, maybe get a little ticketing system going just for the local folks, and we'll live stream that event. So I think that'll be a lot of fun, responding to a lot of the material that's out there against Luke's Christmas story. So I did a episode several months ago, I think, just dealing with a segment that Bart Ehrman said against Quirinius. So I'll, of course, use some of that material, and I'll expand it and use more. So it should be a lot of fun. Let's see here. Other ministry updates. We still have a challenge match going from the board of directors at Defenders Media. We've got a $10,000 challenge match that is active, and we'd love to get your support to help us cover our costs at Defenders, including Veracity Hill. Veracity Hill is a ministry falling under Defenders Media 501c3. There is a board of directors. We file annual 990s. So we've got a treasurer, and we've got a team of administrative folks helping to run the operation, the organization here in the western suburbs of Chicago. And if you didn't know, we have a building. We've got a building in the downtown district of West Chicago. That's a city about an hour west of downtown. 45 minutes if there's no traffic. So like Sunday morning, you could get downtown in 45 minutes. But usually about an hour outside of downtown Chicago. The city is called West Chicago. We've got a building on Arbor and Washington here. And there have been some one-time expenses that have popped up. AC broke, this and that. And so we are looking to recover some of our reserve funds at Defenders. So we'd love to get your one-time donation, help cover some of these costs. But yes, we're sort of like we try to be the real deal here. A lot of apologetics ministries guys, they kind of work it out of their bedroom, which is what they can do. And, that's great that many guys do that, or some guys even do it as a labor of love. So some ministry partners I highly respect Brian Otten and Chad Gross. They are the hosts of the AP 315 podcast. They do interviews at Apologetics 315. They do it as a labor of love. And so they're just, they take the time that they can and put together the interviews, and that's the way that they make a contribution to the apologetics enterprise. So they've got my respect. But at Defenders, I'm trying to make this a full-time gig with a staff, a support team, and we're doing fundraising efforts. We've got some clients that help pay the bills, so we are a full-fledged organization. Okay, other ministry updates. I had mentioned we're looking to do historical Jesus studies, and what I'm hoping with that will be some interviews with some New Testament scholars, both Christian evangelicals and non-evangelicals and non-Christian. I think we'll look at some of their views, then we'll invite them on. This is the same sort of thing I did with the Ordo Salutis series back in the spring semester, we could say. I started, I think, in February, maybe, doing that. And I sort of did some teaching, PowerPoints, presented the views, and then I brought people on to explain their positions so you could see for yourself. I think I would like doing something similar to that, where people are coming on to talk about their views, and then maybe we'll have some great conversations, since I'm a moderate conservative, I like to say. I don't consider myself what many people call a fundamentalist. I'm not necessarily opposed to that term, but what it means, what does it convey? It usually conveys like a wooden reading of the scriptures, usually conveys something like young earth creationism. So I don't affiliate with many of the connotations of that term. So I think that'll be fun, getting into historical Jesus studies in this autumn semester, October, November, December, into the Christmas season, talking about the incarnation and other issues therein. That'll be a lot of fun. So if you have any questions pertaining to historical Jesus studies, please send them my way. I'd be happy to entertain them. And speaking of comments, I wanted to review some of the comments that I've seen on my YouTube channel of late, within like the last month or so. I'll select a few. I'll give you a heads up what video they're from, because we've got clips and shorts that go out, and I have trouble tracking sometimes all the various comments that show up that I could address. So let's start here. About a month ago, I put out this video, the staff or no staff contradiction. And we've got some YouTuber by the handle MSMD3295. And he wrote, "No one can definitely know what Jesus said, because apparently Jesus never personally wrote anything." Well, we've already got a problem right here. I'm not going to read the rest of his comment. It's longer. But this idea that we can't definitely know what Jesus said because the person never wrote anything, that's just a bad recipe. Of course, we can know if there was a scribe there observing what Jesus said. We don't need the person himself to be there, having written it down himself, in order to know what he said. So that's just a non sequitur. Let's move along to also this thought experiment I did on Bart Ehrman, as I mentioned him again. So the thought experiment I did on Bart Ehrman was this. Ehrman misrecollected a detail of an event he was at, and I was also at, and I played the video of. So he misrecollected this event. Why is this important? Well, it happens all the time, right? Well, let's suppose in this thought experiment, if you were to think that there were an error in the Gospels, and this staff or no staff example that I referenced contained an error therein. Now, that's not my position, but if you were to think that, the point in this thought experiment is this: when Bart Ehrman misrecollects a detail, we don't throw out his entire credibility. Rather, we think he's generally reliable and he forgot that one detail and it was an innocent mistake. So likewise, we should do the same if the evangelists were to have made an error. Again, even though I don't think they did. The trouble is that many non-believers do not want to be consistent here. Instead, what they will do is they will throw out the entire narrative because Luke allegedly misrecollected, or Matthew or Mark or whatever example in this case, misrecollected a detail. They will throw out the entire narrative as being reliable. But that is a non sequitur, and they are being inconsistent if they give Bart the benefit of the doubt, but they refuse to give Matthew, Mark, or Luke the benefit of the doubt. That is inconsistent, and people should be consistent in their methodologies. So if Bart can still be seen as generally reliable even when he makes an error, we should do the same with the evangelists for those people that do think the Gospels contain errors. Okay, so that was the thought experiment with Bart Ehrman. Now, this led to a number of comments on this video. We have here Darnmar, Darnmarr, a couple weeks ago. YouTube podcast type conversations don't claim to be an errant, divinely inspired instruction for all mankind, he writes, for all time. Maybe you should experiment with thinking for yourself. This is not the gotcha that you seem to think it is. Actually, Darnmar, I think it is. The whole point here is not that we're arguing over inerrancy or even divine inspiration, but rather whether a gospel text would still be generally historically reliable, even if there were a detail that was misrecollected. So again, if we give Bart the benefit of the doubt, and we still think he's generally reliable, even if he conveys one inaccuracy, a minor point, a minor detail of inaccuracy, we still give him the benefit of the doubt. Same thing, we should do the same thing with other authors, with other writers. But that's not the case. There's this double standard when it comes to the Gospels regarding reliability. We're not talking inerrancy, we're not talking divine inspiration, just reliability. So that's the problem that I think, and I think it does work as a quote-unquote gotcha, but rather just demonstrating an inconsistency that I hope you'll reevaluate. Okay, let's look at some other comments, and then before I close shop, I do want to read a piece of fan mail from a fellow named Joel, so we'll get to that, a kind remark. Okay, let's transition here to looking at, this is a video, Where is the Paradox? Divine Sovereignty and the Human Will. Let's see here, some comments on this paradox. I might have to refresh myself on the paradox. It was a clip from one of the videos here. David Lewis writes, I'm what they call a compatibilist. I believe 100% in hard determinism and 100% in free will, and that the two aren't exclusive. I read plenty of scriptures that express free will and plenty that express hard determinism on the part of the Lord. So it seems to me that the Bible teaches compatibilism, though I have to be open to the possibility that I'm only reading my own worldview into the Bible. I was very interested to see if you would go the full compatibilist route with your title, Where's the Paradox? Yes, so David, thank you for your comment. I'm not a compatibilist, and I just don't think that there is a paradox. I'm sure I'm remembering now where this clip is from. Because if corporate election were what the Bible describes in these cases of election, then it doesn't have anything to say on how individuals are elect for eternal salvation. And thus, there is no quandary, there's no paradox to be had. We have manufactured a paradox from our own misunderstanding of the biblical text. So again, if you were to select a group and choose a group, for example, one analogy is like a sports team. A sports team is a group. You have selected to be the owner or manager of the Chicago Cubs, my favorite sports team. I've got a couple pennant banners hanging up on my wall over that way. If you were to be the manager of the Cubs, and you have selected, you've elected the Cubs, and you've predetermined the Cubs to be your team that you are the general manager of, that has nothing to say over how individuals are to join the team or not, or how individuals would become fans of the team or not. It just means you have picked the corporate group. So there is no paradox, there is no quandary over the relationship between divine sovereignty and human freedom if God has chosen groups. And that is exactly what I think the scripture teaches. In the Old Testament, it's so dominant, nobody bats an eye. It's only when we read the New Testament and you've got a handful of passages, just a handful, a few, that people somehow begin applying, and really they make some logical missteps or really illogical steps, because they'll read a passage about a corporate group and then make an invalid inference that it's about individuals. And we know from the fallacy of division that what is true of the whole is not necessarily true of each part of the whole. So we need evidence that what is true of the whole is true of each part of the whole. And the New Testament text, I think, is scant on the evidence for that what is true of the whole is true of each part of the whole. So we have to, I think what we see is we see people infusing their own preconceived theological notions upon the text, trying to fit it in their interpretations or in their proof texting. Some of the Reformation era confessions, the proof texting is just atrocious. You'd have to do some cross-referencing, but I recommend doing that because you'll see, oh wow, that verse doesn't support that proposition that you're claiming. Now maybe there's some other evidence out there for it, but that verse is not it. So you'll see some proof texting in some Reformation era confessionals and post-Reformation. Okay, let's see here. The Anglican fundamentalist, he writes, corporate election does away with the paradox. It makes the entire Bible make perfect sense. It is not an Arminian position. It was first given the name ecclesiastical election by Anglicans, and Puritan Calvinists referred to it as Arminian. However, before that, they referred to it as Lutheran, and before that, as Popery. I find it sad that so many Anglicans have abandoned our system in favor of the system we fought with, sometimes literally for many years. I'm very much looking forward to the debate. The Anglican fundamentalist, thanks to your comment here. I have not looked into early Anglican doctrine of election. I'll have to look further into that. I see here we've got Peter Fox commenting. Good to see you, Peter. Thanks for joining today for this more spontaneous live stream than a formal episode. You say, yes, Westminster proof texts are often only tangentially related at best. With the Westminster Confession, that's the case, yeah, sometimes. I'm having in mind here various other Reformed, I think, Dort, for example, and some others. They're just really bad on the proof texts. Peter writes, I read that the writers of the Westminster Confession of Faith did not want to include proof text references. Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't studied enough of the history of it. I'd have to go to some other scholar for that. Amateur Knight with the very thoughtful comment, yo. Glad you could join us, Amateur Knight. I'm just reading through some comments. I earlier gave a little ministry update. And if either one of you gentlemen are free this weekend and want to come to the Veracity Hill Golf Retreat, I welcome you to join me. We've got room for 2 more people to join us for golf this weekend. Let's continue on with some comments, and then I will read a piece of fan mail from Joel Lowe. Let's see here. We've got a more recent comment on, is a short? Here's corporate election. This is in the community post that I made, seeking some feedback. 8 days ago, Jack Crow 1204. The individual language in Romans 9 seems like it would be about individuals. Well, that's sort of self-explanatory, although we'll see if he's right. One, whom Jacob, Esau, Isaac, Pharaoh, and I understand that some of these stand in for nations, but at some level they're about individuals. Yes, Jack Crow, they are about individuals, but how so? Is it with regard to their eternal salvation? No, it's not. Read Romans 9. When these individuals are mentioned, it's not about their eternal destinies. When we're reading about Jacob and Esau, we're receiving a description of the genealogical pathway. God working his purposes of election for the purposes of bringing about the salvation of the world through the coming Messiah. It is the line through which Jesus Christ would come. And same thing with Pharaoh. What does the text say? For this reason I raised you up. Why? That God would demonstrate his power and authority over the Egyptian gods. So the election about Pharaoh is not even about his eternal destiny. The election about Esau is not about his eternal destiny. And interestingly enough, you can get Reformed scholars admitting this, but yet they just can't help themselves. They will still import their theological construct into the text, even when they admit that the text of Romans 9 is not primarily about eternal salvation. It's like, well, whoa, wait a second. If it's not about it, then where is the evidence for it? Where is the evidence for individual predestination for eternal salvation or eternal damnation in Romans 9? I don't see it. Give me a verse. I'm happy to engage with any verse you want to pick, and let's see if it defends that doctrine, either the Calvinist or the Arminian. This is not exclusively a Calvinist thing, although I know the Calvinists are really up and up on it. But it is both a contra-Calvinist and contra-Arminian thing, because Romans 9, I think, does not teach individual election. Now, Jack Crow says also the surrounding context of 9 verses 1 to 5, chapter 10 and 11 are all about salvation to eternal life. Yes, they are, but it's not about individuals. It's about corporate groups. At the start of Romans 9, verse 1, Paul talks about the anguish he has over his Jewish brethren. Who are they? They're a group of people, a group that have been cut off. Why have they been cut off? Because they rejected the Messiah. It's about a group of people that have rejected the Messiah, and because they've rejected the Messiah, God has partially hardened their heart. And that is God's prerogative to have. It's God's choice whom he has mercy on. And to have mercy on someone requires first a decision that the person or group of people have made. So this is not something that God has done capriciously. It's a choice that God has made because of their rejection of the Messiah. He gave them a chance. He gave them multiple chances. He gave Pharaoh multiple chances to repent, relent, let the Israelites go. Pharaoh turned down, rejected God's will multiple times. So God hardened Pharaoh's heart only after Pharaoh hardened his own heart, when you read the narrative. So Romans chapter 10 and 11, again, about groups, the Gentiles being included, the Israelites, the Jewish people being partially hardened. But what does chapter 11 say? They could come back at any time. At any time, should they repent and accept the Messiah, they would be grafted back in at any time, Paul writes. So this is about corporate groups. It's not about individuals. Okay, so those are the comments there. I got rolling on Romans 9. See what you did, Jack Crow. I'm having too much fun. Thank you for your comment in the community post. I'll be sure to do a reply here and point you in the direction of the video. So thanks, Jack Crow. Okay, let me read here a very kind message from Joel Lowe, who once wrote us, I think earlier this year. He writes this: "Hello, Kurt Jairus. I would like to submit a fan mail once again to appreciate your work. The first fan feedback I submitted was featured in the Introduction to the Models of Salvation episode. Yes, I'm that same person. I guess maybe for Joel, I'll have to reread this next week for our formal episode if he's only a podcast listener. I have been a faithful viewer ever since then, from watching your Ordo Salutis series, tackling the Salvation Wars, discussing Sola Scriptura, and now dipping your toes in the historical Jesus." Yes, Joel, thank you. Thanks for watching along with us week after week. As always, I commend your approach to apologetics. I like your rule when it comes to engaging on social media. Never say something on social media that you are unwilling to say to a person's face. That's the rule of thumb I've had for quite some time now. Joel continues, "I believe that you have displayed that admirably. Thank you. I also must commend to you on the general structure of Veracity Hill. The quality of each episode is top-notch. I like the weekly structure. I feel like the time in between the episodes results in good research. Contra to other channels where there is much content, when I tune into an episode, I am confident it's of good quality. Subsequently, I must say that as a theological channel, you marinating on a given subject matter for months on end, for example, Ordo Salutis. The structure gives ample space for exploring the finer details. As the audience, it's great to be a part of that sandbox as well." Let me pause here. Thank you, Joel. I've just enjoyed doing that more. So in what we call over here at Defenders, the first, quote unquote, first season of Veracity Hill, the first 200 episodes, it was a weekly show. It was largely interview based, and topics would bounce around week to week. I have found it more enjoyable to simply kind of play in this sandbox. I've even used that term sandbox with my team. I like sitting and playing in this sandbox of a subject or a topic, because you're right, it does allow me to go just a little bit deeper on some finer point that maybe some of us don't have time to delve into. And so I've personally appreciated this structure compared to the first season. So I'm glad you've observed that as well, and that you've enjoyed getting the finer details. Joel continues, I would like to thank you for the work that you do. Though your channel is small compared to other similar channels, I feel that yours is a hidden gem. Ah, thank you. He's just buttering me up. I'm waiting for the hard stuff here. What's his criticism? In terms of topic interest question, I would like to ask about how the doctrine of the devil/divine counsel taken seriously reflect Ordo Salutis. I have been noticing many passages in the Bible referring to Satan being the one that binds the people from the gospel. Jesus does talk about the wolf. The wolf comes to steal. One of the reasons why I'm not a Calvinist, I bring this up because I was thinking about it from reading Twitter/X earlier this week. The challenge with Calvinism is that if God has decreed or ordained every meticulous thing, then that means everything he decrees is good. And thus, even his decrees pertaining to evil are good decrees. And this muddies the moral waters, because how do we begin to analyze what is good and what is bad? What is our objective metric for evil and good? Now, you might say here, well, Joseph says, well, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. This is an exceptional case of God's special providence of working out a big event in his Historia Salutis, the history of salvation. This is not God's general workings and affairs with humans. The whole point to the Joseph narrative is specifically that through evil events, God was able to save the entire region because he worked through Joseph to give him dreams and visions which would result in saving up money for getting through a season of famine. I'm just noticing now that if I lean back, I can see there's a hook on the ceiling. It's kind of looks a little weird. I was like, is that a smudge on my cell phone? It's not. So maybe I'll just lean more forward. We've got a little bit more of Joel's message here. So he wants me to do divine counsel stuff. That's not my wheelhouse. I haven't studied it a ton. And so I could just point you in the direction of a few things. But I'm sure you're already familiar with some people in that arena. He continues, I'm wondering, with the recent work of Mike Heiser, how does our understanding of the active spiritual world change the way we think about the Ordo Salutis, or it might not? Well, I think if I had to say any one particular thing, what the devil's work or divine counsel's work or angelic realm or demonic realm demonstrate, I think, is that as I understand Ordo Salutis, there is not a one-set formula. So John Cassian, for instance, talks about what I call variegated grace, that some people get different amounts of grace depending upon their circumstances. Sometimes people get more grace, more of divine grace than others, because others need it. And so this sort of variegated grace, it's not so formulaic. And what you get with the Ordo Salutis for many camps and models, it's just this rigid formula, as if this is the same way God works with every person. I don't think the biblical text supports that idea. Okay, let's finish up Joel's comment, his message here. Would love to get your thoughts on that. Well, just gave it there a little bit. Many thanks, and he signs off, a Veracity Hill citizen. I like that he did that. I remember when he did that, I just used it in an e-blast I sent out. To be a Veracity Hill citizen, I suppose, would be someone who listens to the program, is a follower. So thank you for being a citizen, Joel. Glad to have your support for the program. And for anyone else who's enjoyed the videos that I've been making, the content I've been making, the positions I've been defending in the public square, would be happy to get your support at Veracity Hill. Consider partnering along with me at veracityhill.com/donate. And I'll also mention this. If there's a subject you'd like to see me debate on, especially if it's in my wheelhouse, like the so-called semi-Pelagians or corporate election, so on and so forth, I would welcome having you set up a debate for me. and for me to participate. It's very easy to do the virtual debates, but I love formal debates, in person, opening speeches, rebuttals. I had so much fun with Sean Luke a few weeks back. We were enjoying our company and discussion so much. We both agreed to simply drop our closing statements. Our cross-examination period went over. We were just having a great conversation. The time was flying, and we could tell that people wanted to ask questions. So we just canceled our closing speeches and jumped straight to Q&A, and we had a blast. So it was a lot of fun, and I want to commend Sean for his attitude and his temperament. There are so many folks out there in the world where that topic would be so combative, but we just had a great time. And so I would love to have more great times with other people on similar subjects. So feel free to set those up for me. You can reach out through the Veracity contact form or reach out through YouTube as well. You can make a comment and we can connect that way as well. All right, well, I just wanted to give the brief ministry update on things I've done, things that we're doing, things that are coming up. We are working on one other final thing. We're working on putting together a conference next year. So keep your eyes open for that. We're working on some headline speakers. We've already got a couple snagged. I won't say who they are, but it should be a fun event here in the western suburbs of Chicago for those that are interested. And keep your eyes peeled out for a more Christmas-themed event in early December. Okay, friends, well, thank you for watching this video. And if you've got questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I will see you next week after the golf retreat. I'll give you a little update on how that retreat went. So stay blessed, and we'll be in touch.